your ruler.
Sold.
Your lands, your possessions, your very lives will gladly be given in tribute to me.
What's up, guys? This is really cool. If it's true, this is really cool because I used to play the crap out of World of Warcraft. Straight up front, I've never played World of Warcraft the traditional keyboard and mouse way. Not once. Never. The story of me in World of Warcraft is I waited and waited for years for it to come to consoles, and it never did. So sometime around the Legion expansion, I was sick of waiting, and through a little bit of searching, I stumbled across the console port add-on, and I installed that, and I played with the console port add-on with a PS4 controller, all the way through Legion to Shadowlands. And there's a bunch of videos of me doing PvP on my original channel, Zod Legacy channel, and yeah, so like a bunch of my favorite thing about WoW, the thing that I mean, it was exciting to get to like finally play the game that you've waited like a decade to play. But at the same time, one of the most exciting things that I found through the leveling process was world PvP. Was while you're going through these areas and doing all these quests and you know, enjoying like just all of it, the scenery, all of it. But occasionally, here every once in a while, oh, there's an enemy. Oh, there's an enemy player. Do I wanna interact with him? Do I wanna like try to get close? Do I wanna sneak up on him and engage with him and kill him? And it was so exciting. It was so exciting every time you'd just be going through the monotony of leveling, and then occasionally it would break up the pace. Oh, there's an enemy player. I loved it. It was awesome. And everyone says, oh, it's not possible on a PS4 controller. Dude, it was very easy to level all the way through the leveling process and do endgame and do mythics and do arenas and blah blah blah. It's like it's ridiculous that anyone thinks it's not possible. It was very easy to play with a controller. I played all of the classes with a controller, even a feral druid, right? Even a feral druid was possible, and that has like the most bindings. Well, okay, some people would argue, oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Well, I also had bindings for all the other specs of Druid. So, yeah, so I had there's 40 possible bindings on a PS4 controller. It's very possible. Anyways, I enjoyed the heck out of it. Ultimately, what happened, I like to do most of my gaming on console. I'm a PlayStation, I wouldn't say fanboy, but I prefer PlayStation just because of the you know, the UI and the controller. I just prefer. There's something about the aesthetic of the console and the UI and primarily the controller. It's not so much the aesthetic of the controller. I like the bigger sticks on the PlayStation controller compared to the Xbox. I know you can buy stick extensions on Xbox, but I like the PlayStation controller better. But anyways, my point is this: I like to do most of my gaming on console. I ultimately ended up literally the only thing I played on my gaming PC was World of Warcraft. I was like, all my other games are on PlayStation. So what I ended up doing was I said, you know what? I don't need World of Warcraft, and I sold like. Early 2021, I'm not, and I don't regret it either. I'm glad I did it. I sold my gaming PC. It was like a GTX 1080 Ti, 11 gigabytes, right? I can't remember. There was one other part of it. It's like Ultra or something. So anyways, I sold that gaming PC used all the money to buy more GME shares, which I do not regret. I'm glad I'm still accumulating GME. Every month, still buying more GME. But anyways, my point is this: I have missed WoW a little bit, and if this turns out to be true, I'll play the heck out of it. I'll play the heck out of it on PlayStation. Dude. Hopefully it's not too dissimilar to console port, or hopefully it's even better. But anyways, let's jump into this video and I can go from, we can stop and start from there. Rambling.
Well, after years of speculation and waiting, it seems like the reality of World of Warcraft coming to consoles, or at least console, may be just around the corner. To some, this might sound blasphemous, but believe me when I tell you, WoW on console looks not only very likely at this point, but also ultimately for the best. The game has, after all, been on a very public decline over the past decade, so opening up to new platforms and players could very well breathe life back into it. Plus, there's the fact that a number of MMOs, including ones that are natively feature tab target combat, have been very successful on consoles. And in WoW's case, between some,
isn't it crazy that a game that is so old and like it's so old but still feels so nice, and like I don't know, it's so old and dated but so good. Like it doesn't even look that bad compared to, like, the graphics haven't even aged that bad. I know they've updated the graphics a bit and done like a bunch of graphical fidelity improvements and everything. But even it's not, but what I'm saying is like the cartoonish look of the graphics, it doesn't even, it's like timeless. It's like timeless. Anyways, the only other MMO I like is Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online is really good, and that is partly why I was able to let go of World of Warcraft, is because I was like, well, I play Elder Scrolls Online on PlayStation, and Elder Scrolls Online is really good, so I tried Final Fantasy XIV and I didn't really like it, but Elder Scrolls Online is really good. The only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't have world PvP everywhere. World PvP is isolated on one continent or one region. Anyways,
and massive new ones coming in Dragonflight, the game will more than ever be very playable on gamepad, to the point where it has the ability to emulate the sort of experience you get in action combat or soft lock MMOs. You will be able to play WoW almost identically to how games like Guild Wars 2 and Elder Scrolls Online play, directly controlling your character, targeting enemies just by looking at them, and interacting with objects and NPCs without the need to directly click. Take all of this and add in the recently data mined controller icons coming to the game and the impending Microsoft acquisition. At this point, I would be surprised if WoW didn't come to consoles eventually. Like, my money is on the table here, and we'll see how it all plays out. I want to dive into some of this here today, but first, let's get a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Tunic. This is the top-down action-adventure game that released for PC and Xbox earlier in the year and was an immediate smash hit, pulling in plenty of 8 and 9 out of 10s from critics, and currently the game sits at a very positive user score over on Steam. Well, they are sponsoring today's video just as a way of letting people know that the game is now also available on PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. To put it simply, Tunic is a fun, challenging adventure game full of mysteries and secrets to discover. It features a hostile, intricately connected world of shady forests, sprawling ruins, and labyrinth catacombs. You'll fight mighty bosses deep beneath the earth, high above the clouds, and in other strange places. You'll discover hidden treasures, collect the missing manual pages, and unearth secret relics, techniques, puzzles, and much more. If you'd like to learn more and check out Tunic for yourself, go ahead and click on the link in the description below. Okay, so I want to talk about the stuff that has kind of led up to this point, the history when it comes to World of Warcraft and controller support and gamepad support, basically. So Blizzard has been slowly building towards this reality over the years, adding various features to
what he's got installed right there is exactly what I used when I played WoW from Legion to Shadowlands. And so he's got console port installed. You see all the buttons layout at the bottom. That's the console port AI, or not AI, user interface. That's the console port user interface Account support is an add-on. WoW is famous for all of its add-ons you can customize the game with. So that's the account support user interface add-on. And then I also experimented with all of the different targeting / health bar add-ons. There's a whole bunch of them. There's so many of them, but the one that I remember I ended up settling on that I liked the most was KUI nameplates, or QE nameplates. And I think that's what he's using. I think that's what he's using for his health bar. He just had different settings set on his. Mine, you can customize it all sorts of ways, whatever colors you want, whatever sizings you want, different textures for the health bar, different selection of what indicates that the health bar is selected.
Console friendly. It all started in 2016 with Legion, where they added Action Cam by inputting the command /console action cam on the game's camera.
And what he's using there, also, yeah, I also used Action Cam for my gameplay. But also another thing I was using, which he's using right there, is there's an add-on that it changes the interface of the quest boxes. The quest boxes go away, right? You no longer get those quest boxes that pop up with the accept or decline. Instead, you get like a cleaner, transparent, like more clean console looking thing that you just saw there, where you accept or then and it'll even show the buttons for accept and decline, and it'll go through the dialogue too. Like, it's much cleaner. When he was just doing the quest right there.
Slightly off-center of your character, making the perspective much more akin to third-person action games. On top of the new camera position, the camera and your character would also slightly adjust to follow your target as it moved. Think like in Dark Souls or Elden Ring, when you're locked onto an enemy, really how the camera moves to keep them in focus. Action Cam works along those same lines. Then in 2020, with the launch of Shadowlands, they added native gamepad support, meaning it was no longer necessary to use external programs like WoW Mapper to play with a controller. Although to get a smooth and more console-like experience, you did still want to use various add-ons like console port and immersion, but nevertheless, native support meant one less hoop to jump through. And now, with the upcoming launch of Dragonflight, they are adding what I consider to be two of the biggest hurdles that, by putting them in the game, put them that much closer to really a natural feeling gamepad and console gameplay, and that is action combat and near object targeting, both of which open up the game to be played like an action or
no way, I didn't know they were adding
MMO.
that to
Think about
Dragonflight.
how combat and targeting work in games like Guild Wars 2 or Elder Scrolls Online. With these additional features, WoW will now be able to more or less emulate that. So first, there's action combat. With this new mode, you will automatically target whatever enemy your character is directly facing. So instead of having to tab or to select a target specifically by like clicking on it, your target is automatically set to whatever is in front of you. If you turn,
the fact that they're adding this almost guarantees that it's coming to consoles. And there's ways where you can set it up like that. I'm like, basically what he just described, I already had that set up anyways. I already had that with my controller. Whatever I was facing, there wasn't a crosshair or anything indicating it, but all I had to do was, have my mouse dead center of the screen, and when it started moving with the controller, the mouse would disappear, and from that point on, whatever I was facing is what would get targeted. And I had it set up so I could alternate through the enemies with left and right D-pad, right? And occasionally, when there was a bunch of mobs like really close together, it would be a little tricky with who I got selected, but not too bad. It wasn't really as much of a nightmare or impossibly undoable as hardcore keyboard mouse fanboys would lead you to believe. It was completely manageable.
because becomes your new target. Now, WoW has kind of had an auto select for some time, specifically with certain melee and cleave skills. If no target was selected, it would automatically pick up one of the enemies that were hit. But this new action combat feature is a totally different thing. It removes the need to manually swap or manually select anything. It will just automatically select things that you're facing. And this also means for ranged characters and ranged abilities, you will now be able to target them without tabbing, without clicking. And again, this makes WoW not only function more like a third-person action game, but also way more playable on gamepad. Also coming in Dragonflight is the new Near Object Interact key. Now, this is similar to action combat, but for NPCs and objects. With this mode enabled, whenever you walk next to an NPC or an interactable object, you can simply hit a single key or a button if on a controller, and it will automatically select and interact.
It's funny though, because all of these things, the add-ons already provided, are coming natively. Like, they're introducing it, now it's natively part of the game, which indicates that yes, for sure it's coming to consoles. Because I already had that through, I don't remember which add-on I had did it. I think it was console port has it built in, where if you just press X or A, depending on what controller you're using, if you're using Xbox controller it's A, if you're using PlayStation controller it's X. If you just if I walk up to an NPC, right, that has a quest to give, and I press X, he'll automatically be selected. He'll automatically start talking to me, and the text will you know, pop up on the screen like The Witcher, right? And then I finish, and then I accept, and I press X again to accept, or circle to decline. And then I move on. It's the fact that they're starting to implement this natively. It makes, like, it's gonna be cool, dude.
The need to click. This looks to function almost exactly like it does in Guild Wars 2. As you walk near any NPCs or any environmental objects, as soon as you get close enough, you can just hit F and it will automatically interact with them, start talking with them, looting, gathering, whatever. This will work in WoW for things like NPCs, quest objectives, mailboxes, anything that is lootable. If whatever you're standing next to can be interacted with this new feature, you can do so with a single input. And then the cherry on top is that it looks like Blizzard is adding even more controller official support. Thanks to some recently data mined information from the Dragonflight beta, they discovered icons for just about every controller input type. Dude, so they have the native support, they have the icons, awesome. They are right there. Now, WoW has been mostly playable with a controller for many years now. This is primarily due to the fantastic add-on console port, which not only remapped your keyboard and mouse inputs to be usable on a gamepad, but also came with an entire UI overhaul, making it way easier to navigate with a joystick and D-pad. I've played around with the add-on on and off over the years and have been mostly impressed with how functional and playable it actually is. And now, between the action cam, the native gamepad support, and the upcoming action combat and near object interact functions in Dragonflight, the game will literally be playable either as it currently is, a tab target MMO, or as an action combat MMO. Like, short of doing the UI overhauls themselves, Blizzard has basically everything they need to officially port WoW to console right now. And I feel like I need to really emphasize just how big these new Dragonflight editions are, because they are massive improvements to the controller experience. So the way targeting currently works on a gamepad using that console port add-on is that you either need to tab target onto an enemy or emulate a mouse click by selecting them. The add-on does this by binding tab to one of the gamepad inputs. This is customizable, but basically a button push replaces the tab key. Or you need to emulate the mouse click with this on-screen crosshair, which indicates the mouse's default position. So then by clicking in the right thumbstick and lining up the crosshair, you can effectively functionally mouse click on an enemy, on an object, on an NPC. But both of these options, the tab or the clicking, just feel slightly too clunky if I'm being honest. For most abilities, especially for ranged classes, you need to hit an extra button before you start using your skill, before you start attacking, before you do anything. And for that reason, I felt way more comfortable playing melee classes when playing with a gamepad, because like I mentioned, there are many melee abilities and
see, he's just not, he's not I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some people just need their handheld or whatever. But I never found any difficulty, whether it be ranged or melee. That's something that these people try to say. Like, no, there was a time where I got addicted to Marksman Hunter, and a Marksman Hunter was like what, like I'd play the crap out of Marksman Hunter, right? And that would be all that I would play. You know, my favorites obviously were, not obviously, but man, I had one of everything. The only class I didn't like was Paladin, and one other, I can't remember. Monk. Yeah, that was it, Monk. The only class I never, no, I had a Monk. I just didn't play it. I had, man, I had so many classes that I liked, but I played the crap out of Marksman Hunter. I played the crap out of other ranged classes like what do you call it? Balanced Druid. I think that's what it's called. I played the crap out of But anyways, my favorites was Feral Druid, Rogue, Subtlety Rogue, Marksman Hunter, Unholy Death Knight, and Elemental Shaman. Elemental Shaman and also Enhancement Shaman.
Without a target, and then the game will auto select the nearest target that was hit, and it's pretty great. So for that reason, playing like a rogue, playing a warrior, playing a paladin all feel fantastic. But the range classes require that extra step of tabbing or lining up the crosshair and clicking, and it just doesn't feel right. And it's just as bad as, if not even worse, for interactable objects, talking to NPCs, looting, clicking on quest objectives. All of that require you to line up that crosshair and emulate the mouse click on the gamepad, and it feels way too cumbersome, really. So replacing all of this with the new Near Object Interact will mean, just like in ESO or Guild Wars 2, you just need to stand next to something and hit a single input. It's clunky right now. This is going to be way better, an amazing quality of life improvement, and just overall feel. It'll feel a lot more natural. Now, when it comes to the idea of playing on gamepad or the idea of WoW coming to consoles, there's a few major concerns that tend to come up. One of them is, are there enough inputs? Let me say this,
yes.
The answer is unequivocally yes. So by default, with the current console port add-on, the setup is 12 buttons and 2 modifiers. So you've got the 4 face buttons, the 4 D-pad, the left and right bumper, and then start and select. Those are the 12 inputs. And then left and right trigger act as modifiers, sort of like swapping hotbars. So you can hold down left trigger to get 12 more, hold down right trigger to get 12 more, hold down them both to get 12 more, including the default 12. Those 3 additional layers add up to 48 total skill slots, 48. Just using 2 modifiers. And if that wasn't enough, you could technically add another modifier. I mean, you could just keep adding modifiers, adding more hotbars. So let's say you did left trigger and right trigger as well as left bumper, so 3 modifiers. This would remove 1 open slot because you're taking away left bumper. While it brings the total number of slots down to 11, you have 3 extra combinations, bringing the total with 3 modifiers
and I barely
and 11
ever used
buttons to
my 4th hotbar
skills.
Right,
and
by default it has 4 hotbars.
Further by adding a 4th modifier. So basically, to answer the question is, are there enough inputs on the gamepad to have all of your skills?
Stuff I didn't really care about.
Absolutely. There's way more than enough. You can totally make it work. And you should be aware that it works just by the virtue of the other console MMOs that exist. Final Fantasy XIV in particular, you can do it. It is certainly possible. And then on top of that,
he's gonna have so many keyboard and mouse fanboys in his video comments saying, "No, it can't work. It's not as good, or maybe it works, but it never will be as good, and you'll always be playing at a handicap deficit, and you'll be bringing your team down, and you're wrong. It's not true.
Just like a radial menu, and
it's like what it is. It's cognitive dissonance. It's when you've told yourself for 10 plus years straight that something is this way and this is why, then all of a sudden after 10 years of believing such thing turns out to be wrong, the brain is like, no way. Grr, grr, cognitive dissonance.
And you're able to bind various objects, things like potions, your Hearthstone, and even skills onto this radial menu, adding even more skills. Now, enough inputs is one question, which hopefully we've answered. Another one is, does it play well? As I mentioned, in the time that I've played WoW using a gamepad and console port add-on, it was absolutely enjoyable and functional. Was it ideal? Was it flawless? No and no. But I think with these upcoming Dragonflight changes, it is going to be a heck of a lot better. Like, I'm certain, actually. I am genuinely excited to give Dragonflight a go using a gamepad with the new action combat and the near object targeting. It's not going to become my default. I still prefer keyboard and mouse, but those two additions are going to make a gamepad feel way, way, way more natural. And again, this really isn't a question of like either or. The biggest advantage for playing any MMO on a gamepad is it just feels more casual and relaxed. The idea that I could just like sit on a sofa and use a big screen TV and play WoW just chilling with a gamepad, it's
pretty
it's
flawless.
A different experience than like sitting here trying to
The only
maintain
problem I
posture,
ever had was occasionally
on my
you would
keyboard, and mostly
have to
failing at maintaining a posture.
press the touchpad
like at least I
to
can get rid of
unselect
the
something
facade
that
when I'm on the couch. I'm on the
was
couch.
staying
I'm sitting
selected.
improperly. It's fine.
Just-
It's not
you just
really
click
an
the
either or
touchpad
situation, and there's
one
certainly
time.
some value, even
Click,
if it's just a
done.
different way to experience the
Becomes
game
second nature and you
in
don't even notice
playing
it.
on a gamepad. Now, another big concern that comes up is, could you play competitively? The answer is yes.
When I say
People
the
have,
touchpad,
in fact.
turn
There
on
are
the
videos
PlayStation
all
4
over YouTube
controller.
of people clearing mythic raids and reaching Gladiator using only a gamepad. It is absolutely possible. Now, again, is it ideal? No, not really. Probably not, especially when it comes to the existing clunkiness of
When they say it's not ideal, right? They're saying that not be. He just said it. Playing mythics, high mythic keys is totally doable on the gamepad, on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, whatever you want to use, Xbox. I don't know if Count supports PlayStation 5 yet. I don't know, but so I shouldn't say that. Xbox controller. But when he says it's not ideal, that's because it's not ideal because when you're doing this high difficulty content and you have this years and years and years of being mentally accustomed to doing it with keyboard and mouse during this content, you might run into some mental hiccups while you're doing it. While you're in the intense situations, you might run into the mental hiccups of wanting to like do things as you've always done, whereas if you're like me and you've literally only ever played using this console port add-on, you don't have any mental hiccups with it. It's just more, it's just more content. You got higher gear. Don't step into AoEs. Don't know the mechanics of the fights, blah 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 blah, etc etc. It's really not hard. It's easy. In fact, I would argue it's more easy with a controller, playing with the controller than it is with the keyboard and mouse. Like I was thinking the whole time I was playing it, and I'm thinking of all these other players around me playing this. I'm thinking like all these other players around me are like got their both hands up. They're pressing WSAD and they got their hands on their mouse and they're pressing all these numbers and they're having to remember what number. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting here with my hands close together and I already know what I got everything binded to. Like for example, Subtlety Rogue. All I gotta do is, oh look, I'm running around like any other game. Oh, I'm running around. I'm jumping, blah blah blah. With X, I'm jumping, right? And then like, if I want to do my rotation and I'm in, like, say I'm Subtlety Rogue and I want to do my rotation, come out of stealth with R1. That I can't remember all the ability names, but that jumps to them and does the attack. I think it's Shadow Strike. It Shadow Strikes to them, and then I do Shadow Strike, and then the buff thing. I had once I'm out of stealth, R1 does the buff thing, and then up is Shadow Dance. And then down is the other buff thing, and that brings in them R1 Shadow Strike, Eviscerate, Shadow Strike, Eviscerate. It's just and then I do my rotation. It's like I know where all the buttons are. Meanwhile, these other people, they're like, I guess if they have a gaming mouse, they got all these number keys on the side of their mouse. But still, that's awkward. Like I said, I guess it's all preference. Years and years and years of like doing things. To me, holding a gaming mouse with a bunch of numbers, like, honestly, you're not even looking at the numbers. You just like feel. You remember where the clickers are by feel. That's so awkward. And like, why would you want to play like that? Or even if you're pressing the numbers on your keyboard, all the numbers are spaced out. You know, it's like, or even if you're using the number pad, still, it's just, I don't know, man. That's weird. Then you're like playing Simon Says. I just always prefer controllers for everything. So honestly, I don't like keyboard and mouse gaming. But anyways, let's finish this video.
But there's no question at this point that the hardest and most competitive content in the game has and can be cleared just by using a controller. And again, this is going to become even easier with the new changes.
He just said it again. I just can't stop reiterating it because I know there's people that just absolutely refuse to believe it. I played the shit out of Mythic and Yolotha and Battle for Azeroth with just a PlayStation 4 controller. PlayStation 4 controller. I beat Mythic and Yolotha multiple times on multiple characters, on a Subtlety Rogue, on a Marksman Hunter, on Unholy Death Knight, Feral Druid. It's not impossible, as people would for some reason want you to believe. I don't know why, like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? That's the thing that irks me about it, is why is it so elitist that you care that someone's playing on a controller? It's like, you can do things
Blizzard
multiple
has
ways.
clearly been making moves to make WoW way more natural on a gamepad. While console port is an unofficial add-on, Blizzard themselves have added native gamepad support. They added action cam, and they are adding that action combat and that new object targeting. The only thing they have left to do is to make an official UI overhaul themselves. And then at that point, while I know it's not just the snap of a finger, much of the pieces will be in place for an actual console release. And I think that they should. There's a few reasons why. For one, WoW's PC player base kind of been on a mostly continuous decline since Cataclysm. This is not a secret. It is a well-known secret, if anything. Also, other MMOs have proven to be quite successful. Look at games like BDO, ESO, and the most comparable thing to WoW, Final Fantasy XIV. That is a by default tab target game that seems to work quite well on console and also has been quite successful. And then, of course, can't leave out the fact that Microsoft is acquiring, or they're in the process of acquiring, Activision Blizzard King. And with that, and the focus that they have on Game Pass and trying to add value, World of Warcraft subscription included in Game Pass, even if it was at the premium tiers, sounds like a lot of value. They are all about that, and that seems entirely plausible. I guess one of my biggest questions at this point would be how they handle crossplay. Would PC and console players be playing on the same servers? Would it be entirely separate? Different games have done different things here. For example, Final Fantasy XIV does have crossplay between console and PC, whereas ESO have their own dedicated servers for each. Xbox players play together, PlayStation players play together, PC players play together. ESO has decided to separate them. WoW could go either way, especially when it comes to people who might be concerned about, you know, the dumbing down of the game, as if that isn't already an existing concern that's been trending throughout World of Warcraft, retail World of Warcraft's expansions. I don't know that a gamepad, which, as I mentioned, has upwards of like 80 inputs, would necessarily dumb it down. I understand the concern, but I just don't feel that bothered by it, I suppose.
How is it dumbing it down?
I don't know how like authentic of a worry that really is. I think the game is going in the direction that it's going, and the direction that it's going with all of the support that Blizzard has already been doing, even without the announcement of official console release, it just makes playing the game here a lot more feasible and even enjoyable. There's especially playing as the melee classes, the range is another story, and I think healing is an extra layer of difficulty and clunkiness, almost certainly. But playing melee class with a controller, it feels really good. It honestly does. It's pretty chill. I could just like lay back, hang out, and use this. I don't know. I've had fun. I've enjoyed it. So obviously we will see. Nothing is official yet, but they are so close to being able to do this. And I would like to see it. I would genuinely like to see it. I think the idea of like a fresh start action version of WoW on a gamepad, like I would bust out the Xbox to try that. I absolutely would. Just like I try fresh start servers in WoW, just like I try classic WoW. Give me another angle into playing WoW and I'll probably check it out. And this sounds like a good one. But yeah, there you go. That is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.
That was a good video. That was a good video. Playing on a controller is so fun that you'll find yourself being an altaholic. You'll become an altaholic because you'll be like, oh man, I love playing this. I love playing this class in the spec on controller, and then you'll go try another. Then you'll go try and you'll create a new character and you'll play a different class and spec. Because playing on controller is just so freaking comfortable and it feels good to run around beating stuff up or shooting stuff, pressing the buttons on the controller, and so you'll become an altaholic. I had one of every class except for like except for like 2, and one of them was Paladin. I don't remember the other one, so maybe it was just Paladin. I don't know why. I just have a problem with Paladin. Right, I just thematic, and also it felt the slowest, if I remember correctly. Paladin has like low mobility. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I just didn't like Paladin. If you want to watch a bunch of videos of me playing World of Warcraft with a controller, I have a bunch of old videos on my old channel where I played the shit out of World of Warcraft and PvP on a controller. And it's on my other channel, Ruler's Odd Legacy channel. I appreciate you guys for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that stuff, and follow me on Twitch. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys for making it this far, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.